Hi everybody and welcome to Brittania Wine Merchants. My name is Steve Goldsworthy. I run the joint here. I'm the head taster, wino, bottle washer, and so on. We're here from the beautiful Brittania Plaza, where we've been here for almost 28 years. One of the first shops actually to get licensing back in the 90s, way back when. And I wanted to show you around the shop, talk about some vinos, talk about some tastings and some food pairings and such. So let me show you around the place. I can squeeze in about 1,500 different wines into this place, as well as spirits and so on. We're organized by country, and we've got something for everybody, I hope. We also have a full complement of liquors and spirits, everything from collectible rums to artisanal tequilas and so on. And down this way, we also have a wonderful sparkling section, I think, as well as a beautiful little micro craft brewery. Stop. A wonderful selection of craft beers, all locally brewed. You can make that work. This is the beer cooler, where we have a wonderful selection of all locally brewed micro craft beers. So that's one of my favorite spots. Any winemaker will tell you it takes a lot of beer to make good wine. Continuing the tour, we're in the Old World section, basically. So we've got Spain, we've got Italy, we've got France, and we've got South Africa, strangely enough, which is sort of straddles in between Old World and New World. And we're moving into one of my favorite sections up at the front, our Scotch section. I think one of the better selections of Scotch in the city. Everything from big, huge peat monsters down to wee little drams of soft and heathery scotches and so on. So some collectibles, some recognizables. We try and keep some other products here that maybe are not everywhere, for exclusivity, of course, but also just because that's what our customers like to discover something new, like to discover something that we have tasted, because every single bottle of whether it's Scotch or wine, we have tasted. It's a tough job, I know. We have actually tasted them all, so we can personally recommend every single bottle in the shop, which I think is unique. And a lot of that tasting actually happens in the tasting room. So about 6 or 7 years ago, I blew a hole in the Italian section, and we found a tasting room. We built this place as a place for people to come and taste wines, to come and meet and talk about wines, build the culture of wine itself, and just have a lot of fun, I hope. So let's walk in here. The tasting room itself is kind of set up perhaps maybe with some more premium wines in here, some Old World and some New World. In this little room here, a little treasure trove of Bordeaux's and Old World wines. You can find anything from first growth Bordeaux's to some really interesting Sauternes, sort of dessert wine types, some real rare gems. Out here in the room itself, there's also a fairly good array of Old World Bordeaux's, some Spanish and so on, some collectibles and so on. So this room we kind of built with the idea that we wanted to create a real wine culture. And we do a lot of tastings in here. We facilitate Scotch tastings, wine tastings, but it's really about demystifying wine itself and taking away perhaps some of that snobbery or misconception. Wine is meant to be drank, it's meant to be enjoyed, and above all, it's an experience. It's an experience like food is an experience. It's part of our culture, it's part of the food that we eat, the family and friends that we have, and this is the idea, is that this is sort of a stand-up living room style tasting with family and friends. So we also have a great focus on local. We also work with and promote local artists, such as Karen Brown here with her work. And I hope she doesn't mind us taking a look at it, but we can talk about that later. So everything from the agencies that we work with to artists that we work with, and right down to our growler bar, which we have here, which we've had for another 3 or 4 years. All local beers, all local craft. It's really all about creating that local experience and that local community of wine. So the second side of the tasting room, I suppose, from Old World, we go back to New World. And there's some wonderful gems here from California, from Napa and Sonoma, as well as from Washington State. And again, some exclusivity here, some recognizable wines for sure, but really it's almost like, I suppose, our wine cellar a little bit, high-end wine cellar. But that's the approach here, as I say, is to demystify a lot of these wines and to just simply drink them. And that's something that I've had the distinct pleasure to do. Every single wine that's in here, myself and my staff have tasted. It's a tough job. It's exhausting. You can imagine I'm not complaining. And so we can personally select every single one of these wines for whatever experience you're having or want to have with the wines. And I think that's really important. It's not just reading on the back of a label. It's saying we've tasted it in that situation. We think that's going to be a good match for you. And speaking of matches, we'll probably move into looking at tasting some wines and matching, doing some food pairings here, right here in the wines tasting room.